So, welcome to our drive-bys. We are today covering both Hampstead and Belsize Park, and we have Reza with us today as well.
And I think we are starting at the highest point in London, this pond, which cuts Hampstead Heath in two. It's a very small pond. My understanding is that this is traditionally the place where the River Fleet starts. And the River Fleet flows all the way down through London, down this hill. Hampstead Hill is a substantial hill that kind of graduates all the way down to the West End, and River Fleet starts here, and it flows sometimes above ground in bits and pieces, like a little bit of a brook through Hampstead Heath, and used to terminate in the River Thames. And places such as Fleet Street are named after that river because they're built somewhere along the site where that river originally existed. So that's, for me, very interesting part of Hampstead, that it's such embedded in old London history, and it was a very affluent town affluent village because it was on a hill. Only very rich people lived up here, and we started at the highest point in London. Now we're going to be driving down East Heath Road, which basically takes us down the hill. On the left, you've got Hampstead Heath behind these beautiful old style houses. You'll often see, we're here on a Saturday, you'll often see dog walkers, joggers. People go out jogging, they should sit at home and watch TV. That's my opinion. And you've got Hampstead Village on the right hand side, which we are going to do a turnaround at the bottom of this hill and come back towards. Beautiful, quaint village. I think your 3D camera might be picking up some of these cottages and sort of Victorian houses. It's almost like a Sherlock Holmes movie. If you remove all the cars and tech from here, you could film a really good episode with Jeremy Brett wandering around as Sherlock Holmes.
And how many famous people live around here?
Oh, no end of famous people. Actually, very, very good queue. We are just driving past, if the 3D camera picks it up, the 360 camera, but that was Boy George's house. Beautiful Gothic style mansion. A lot of Gothic style buildings here, which I kind of gravitate towards, but some people find them sort of creepy, but I like them. And if you can see on the right hand side this sort of red brick Gothic revival, let's call it. And you will see places like that in this kind of architecture in places like Holland Park and Highgate. But originally, I believe Hampstead is the daddy of them all. Hampstead is, for those of you who are into your art and architecture, Hampstead has got some of the most beautiful buildings, residential buildings, that is, anywhere in London. And on the left-hand side, you've still got Hampstead Heath. We are basically heading down Hampstead Heath towards Hampstead Heath Station. Jarpish, what line is that on?
That's the overground.
That's the overground line.
I will list which lines it includes on the actual video.
Actually, within sort of a relatively small area, sort of a square kilometre, you've got the overground, you've got Hampstead Tube Station on the Northern Line.
Which is the deepest tube station in London.
It is the deepest tube station in London.
194 feet.
And I believe it was a US real estate or realtor entrepreneur who took London by storm and built the Hampstead line, as it was called.
Prior to that, it was a single developer, was landowner, who owned Hampstead and started developing. But that was a lot earlier.
And he built the line, having bought a lot of the areas around Golders Green and Hampstead, and then sort of he built the line and encouraged people to live there and travel from there. So I'm only going into very brief history, but you can read about that on Google. So let's there you go. So you have, this is the one thing I don't like about Hampstead. It is quite vibrant. You have a very sort of classy crowd, but they seem to forget the rules about crossing the road when they feel like it.
But the hospital is here.
And the hospital is here.
All free.
So even though we started our trip at the top of the hill in Hampstead Heath, actually our reference point, if we turn a left here, Jalpesh, we're going to do a left and a turn around. Or we could go straight and do a turnaround.
Yeah, as soon as
Madam has
decided to do a 3-point turn.
It's quite interesting. Actually, quite polite.
It's quite.
So on the left, I hope your camera's picking this up. No end of families out and about walking, and this is Hampstead Heath Station. No end of dog walkers, and I've been watching this in London, in areas like Primrose Hill, Notting Hill, Hampstead. Wherever you see a lot of people walking dogs in the morning and well-groomed dogs, we're gonna actually do a U-turn. Wherever you see that, you know that it's an affluent area because you have people who are paying quite a lot of money to have their dogs groomed.
Ricky Gervais. Who else was here?
Well, Ricky Gervais is not really a dog.
No, but he loves his cats.
Interestingly enough, if you have a look at the architecture around here, at the back of Hampstead Heath, it's beautiful. It's very, very quiet suburban if you can turn the car around. This is what traditional suburban London used to look like 30, 40 years ago. And one of the things I like a lot about Hampstead and its surrounding areas is it's kind of stuck in time. Yes, you see newer cars and there's a little bit of technology upgrade, but these still very quiet, docile areas and sort of traditional buildings on either side. Again, this kind of buildings you would see, these kind of residences you would see in perhaps Muswell Hill. The sort of Muswell Hill again, another one of those old, posh, can we say posh London areas where sort of higher net worth individuals would live. So now we're going to hook a right and go back up East Heath Road and then cut into Hampstead Village. You can see no end of little boutique shops and restaurants and cafes here. This really is a Saturday, Sunday morning person's dream. You can sit in a nice, very nice. We're not talking about chain shops. These are all boutique shops. Whether it's one of my favorite bookstores here, Daunt Books. It's the kind of place you would, walk around for an hour just browsing and having a cup of coffee. It's that kind of vibe. It's that kind of atmosphere.
But you're close, very close to Central.
You are unbelievably close because 5-minute drive down the road, you're at Swiss Cottage, and those who know, Swiss Cottage is basically the centre of the universe in North London. Wherever you want to go, you can cross through Swiss Cottage. But from here to Marble Arch, without too much traffic, is a 12-minute drive. Let's hook a left here. And we're going into Hampstead now, Hampstead Village.
As we give way to one of our classic black cabs.
Right. Let's hook a right here, up Willow Road, again. Right. So, very, very interesting place I'm going to point out on the left-hand side for me. One of very famous, if we could go slightly slow, on the left-hand side, this is a museum. It looks like a residential area, but this is a museum. This is someone's house. This is the house of Erin Goldfinger, the brutalist architectural designer of the 50s and 60s, after which the James Bond villain Goldfinger is named. And he is very famous for having designed that very ugly monstrosity, the Trellick Tower.
Which will show you in another video.
But there's a very architecturally rich area here, and you can see these beautiful little side roads that pull up. We're going into Hampstead Village.
And those are the horses' drinking troughs, aren't they?
Horses' drinking trough, very, very historic. You'll see a lot of historical architectural points of interest that you can find on Google, whether it's lampposts, whether it's drinking troughs, whether it's little odd bits. We're going into a very, very tight part of Hampstead here. The roads get a little bit narrow, so let's see, a beautiful little theatre here in the corner. We're going to hook a left, very, very tight here, by the way, but we'll negotiate it. One of my favourite pubs is up here, the Flask. And
we are known for pubs here.
So there's no end of pubs because this was a bunch of villages connected to each other. We're going to go straight up. But the reason for driving through here is you get a little bit of idea of how unlike London this feels. It feels as if you're out in the sticks in some quaint village.
But you get range of things from flats around the average price around $1 million plus, then terrace houses around the $2 million plus range, up to detached and semi-detached At around 4 million, 5 million is the average, but they go a lot higher as well.
Shout out to my favorite pub up there, the Flask. Very quaint, very cozy. One of the nicest pubs in London, I would have thought. One of those. So hooker right here, Jalpesh.
Antique shops as well.
Lots of antique shops, but it's a mix. You will get the really designer sushi restaurant. You will get a bagel bakery,
and the famous crepes.
Well, we're going to drive past that, so you
preempted you there.
You preempted me on that one. We're coming up to Hampstead. Well, this is not Hampstead High Street, but I kind of call it Hampstead High Street in my vernacular. Lots of, again, you can see lots of quaint little restaurants that you can pick from throughout the year.
And the very tight roads, you can hear everything beeping.
No, you can actually see in the mirror, you can see in the shop front in front of you, you've got plenty of space.
Oh, the front curb is the problem, but
yeah, you've got 3 feet on this side. Yeah, you're done. It's the kind of place where you're going to get people who have so much time they can go for a run up Hampstead Hill. I don't know why you would want to run up a hill. It's better to run down a hill. But there you go, you have it. And it says something too about this area.
Community.
They're not being mugged for their phones. They're not breaking out into fights. It says something about this area. Well, my favourite area in London, to be very honest with you. And on the left-hand side, we've got Hampstead Tube Station on Northern Line, which we were talking about. We're going to turn left here. We're going to be going down Hampstead High Street. And Hampstead High Street, very famous in the 70s and 80s. You would get no end of celebrities walking through here. When I had... Let's get the ambulance go. When I had an office just further down, I would walk past this coffee shop. I'd often see Culture Club having breakfast there. And that's the kind of place it is. Up there, we've got a very famous sort of mobile creperie called the Hampstead Creperie. Everyone knows about it. Sorry?
There's now 2.
There's now 2, and that's only in recent months. But for the last 40, 45 years, the Hampstead Creperie, you'll see late night people queuing up, not like a doner kebab stall. You'll see...
well, some people may not know what doner kebabs are, I suppose, but...
Well, people here probably don't know what doner kebabs are. But you can see fancy ice cream shops, bakeries on the left-hand side. Olenstein is about as fancy as you get. But you've got your conveniences. You've got Sainsbury's.
Clothes shops as well.
There's the creperie. It's closed pretty much during the daytime. You can see that on the right. We'll do some inserts in with some photos, post-production. You've got your conveniences, post offices, but
not many post offices left.
Not many post offices left. But one of the most distinctive parts of Hampstead is perhaps the lack of franchised restaurants. You get boutique, privately run. Well, having said that, we'll go past Cafe Nero, but they're fewer rather than...
And the famous Snappy Snaps, which
the
something you need to read up on.
Which George Michael crashed into when he was slightly out on marijuana, I believe. But that's the famous Snappy Snaps. There's the famous Shag Bag. It's the Sharbach, but we call it the Shag Bag. Very famous Indian restaurant here.
And the famous Hampstead Butcher as well.
The Hampstead Butcher. There is no end of little quaint restaurants and points of interest here. If we miss any, I guess Jalpesh is going to do some inserts and voiceover on that.
And there's a number of schools in the area as well, so it's basically where everyone who's become something has wanted to live in.
Yep, everyone, including me.
And who doesn't want to be part of the Mayfair Knightsbridge side. This is where a lot of the rich and the famous people go.
And just as an extension, the road we're driving down, if you could drive in a straight line down this road, you'd end up in Tottenham Court Road. Now, modern deviations and etc. have changed that, but if you could drive straight down this road in a straight line, you'd end up in Tottenham Court Road. And having done some historical research, is one of the things I really enjoy. I understand that the rich who lived in Hampstead 200, 300 years ago in this village would go into central London to visit the opera down this route and come back up this route. And the very famous highwayman Dick Turpin used to do his hunting on what is now Tottenham Court Road. Tottenham Court Road has a very rich history as well. We'll discuss that in a different video. But this was sort of a highway down into London and back out of London. So I find that history very, very entertaining. By the way, you have a church on the right and a church on the left. The church on the right, I believe, for the past 30, 40 years has been a recording studio. And the one on the left was abandoned for quite a long while. It's been sort of refurbished. People use it for events. But I find these sort of Gothic or Gothic revival style churches very typical of the flavor of Hampstead. As you see the orangey brown brick colors, that is Hampstead colors, if you feel like it. And that's the kind of nature of the real estate in this area. Red brick, would you call it red brick?
I would. I mean, there's also the...
Well, you would, because it's old.
It is red brick, yeah.
There you go. There's a hospital on the left-hand side, the Royal Free. Again, a very famous hospital. The Free hospitals were basically the teaching hospitals in London, so they were considered the best hospitals because the best doctors would work there. Shall we hook a right here? And what we will do is drive into Belsize Village. We're basically now in Belsize Park. We crossed that traffic light into Belsize Park, and now we're going to Belsize Village. Now, this 400 years ago used to be just a big open sort of farmland, privately owned. There was only one house, which kind of exists in bits and pieces. But if you look at the real estate on the right-hand side, it's just old world, but really brought into sort of modern finishing. It's and you have a mixture of left and sort of like, I would have thought, 60s style design mixed into much older design. If your 360 camera is picking it up, we're driving into Belsize Village in front of us. These very quaint, quiet streets. Now, once again, no end of beautiful little coffee shops, wine bars that I frequent, by the way. On the left, very famous restaurant, Caldesi, is Italian restaurant, beautiful bar. A Perivino is on the left, another wine bar that we go to quite a lot, very often. Beautiful restaurants on the side. Great real estate straight out of Mary Poppins world.
And hopefully during this journey we'll go and see some of the pubs as well. At least drive past or take a few shots outside.
We've driven past one or two pubs, but there are lots of them, and they all have their kind of individual character. The one kind, there's a few styles you won't find. You won't find many sports bars in Hampstead, and you won't find sort of the Irish pub. You'll find quaint London pubs, just very cozy, very quaint. So we've just basically traversed the whole of Belsize Park. Very controversial building on the right-hand side, the Tavistock Centre, that's been in the news in the last 15 years for controversial mental health practices. We're going to hook a left here, and actually, if we were to drive 200 meters down the road, we get to Swiss Cottage, but we're not going to do that. We're going to hook back. So if we go
That's going to be another video for another day.
So left, there's a beautiful little architectural detail on the right. That's a florist shop. We are going to hook a left up there. And if your camera's picking up, we're going left here, but in front of us is Swiss Cottage. So that is, we've been driving around slowly and meandering, but if you wanted to get from Hampstead Tube Station to Swiss Cottage by car, it's not even a 2-minute drive. Not even a 2-minute drive.
You can see that on the map, so which you'll see on the corner.
Now we're driving back up. We're sort of doubling back on ourselves. We're driving back up into Belsize Park. This is Belsize Park. Once again, you can look at the what I consider very beautiful style of residential buildings here. Sort of post-Victorian, I would have thought. And the left-hand side is basically where we drove past 5 minutes ago, Belsize Village, but you can get a glimpse back into Belsize Village once we get past these road restrictions that are cropping up all over London, absolutely everywhere, for no reason whatsoever. Broken London, not impressed. And if you use your 360 camera to glance towards the left-hand side, you will see the opening of Belsize Village. And it's a quaint little village, very quiet, community-based.
Yeah, it's very community. I mean, when you look at Knightsbridge and Mayfair, that's not community villages or places. These are.
So we're driving back up towards Haverstock Hill. Haverstock Hill was an extension of Hampstead High Street.
And Tudor Close on the right, which we'll have to do some research on.
Yeah, very, very interesting area to drive, but more interesting to walk around. I've walked around here quite a lot, and you'll always find something different. There's a town hall building on the right, which is used as an art centre, but I have to say it's absolutely beautiful. These are free places in London to visit. I mean, just for a walk, hook are right here, Jalpesh. And we are going to be ending this video here in Belsize Park High Street. I would have thought it's not called that, but again, the little shops to the left and right. So as you come down the hill from Hampstead, everything gets slightly cheaper. I do say slightly cheaper, and it changes flavor, but it is still very classy, very enjoyable. And on the left-hand side, you have Belsize Park Tube Station, again on the Northern Line, one station away from Hampstead, which is where I think we end this video.
Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video, and we'll come up with the next one very soon. If you've got any questions or want to know more about the area, just drop some comments and happy to answer them.
And if we've made any mistakes anywhere, point them out.
We're always learning.
You are, yes.
You are too, but let's not go into that now.
I was born ready.
Well, until next time.